Would you listen to an opportunity? Welcome to the Sealark channel. I actually don't know why I chose that as the front of this. Today I wanted to show you the Trashed Art Collective, a series of artworks that I made in collaboration with my elementary school students back when I was a teacher, and the trash can. I would retrieve works from the trash, cut, piece together collage, and paint things for a little revived, upcycled art moment. And after we go through these, I thought I would make some out of some newer works from the last number of years that I just am not attached to. If you're interested in trying out doing some trash to treasure work, I would encourage it. Tag me at Sealark. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Patreon. After today, I'll have studies from this up on robinsealark.com. Have a nice time, enjoy the video, and if you make art, let me know. Yeah. Do I have deja vu or have I shown you this? Tell me what video it's in if I've shown off some of these works before. In this, I took an image and added interesting line work and detailing, shading. Here I brought together multiple students' work and added shadows to ground the figures. In this one, I took a separate background, separate pieces, I defined edges, and overall wanted to be inspired by what I was finding in the trash, but find new ways to put the characters into scenes, change up composition, think about refining of details, the line work, the color, and how to rearrange pieces into compositions that would be dynamic and finished looking. I added student stick figures into the background of this. And on these, I took pieces to collage, and whether I was being guided by a drawing already visible, or else the shape of different abstract features they'd painted on a page and abandoned. This is a practice possible if you have trashed work of your own, as well as if you have access to other people's pieces of work. It's a way that you can take resources you already have available to you and recycle them into a new idea, coming at it with fresh eyes. In this one, this was my second one of the Trash Collective. I put on a new face, added new line work, up a bomb from the game Mario. In doing this, I realized I had unintentionally created a trash to treasure upcycled artwork recently with the outskirts of a stretch canvas I cut off of its stretcher bars. The fabric that I had left over that was painted but not part of the painting that I kept, I put into this woven pattern and I glued them together with super glue to create something new. In this same note, I wanted to go visit works that I had around my studio, things I haven't touched in years, to think about what I could turn it into. I've had this on the front of a sketchbook for probably 3 years, and this also sitting around made at a different time in an exercise with a Patreon student. We were doing timed, blocked in landscapes and I never finished them. So wanted to think what I could get up to in them. I also had a number of unfinished sketchbook works, this piece, a road trip image looking out the front windshield, and also this abstract piece that I really like, but it doesn't fully spark joy. It feels messy, and I've thought about cutting out the composition in a new way. I have these two little collage works. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with them, but this is the piece I'm choosing to begin with. I figured let's start out simple, take something I really am not obsessed with, and just see if I can transform it in a number of steps. In my last video, I did an easy acrylic sunflower tutorial. In that, I mentioned that my first attempt, I was unsuccessful, and so I made another one to have a better version, but this is the first painting I made. I had gone too muddy with my colors, and didn't feel like I got good paint opacity or color vibrancy. I wanted to define my composition a little better. I outlined my petals, I cleaned up my colors, and in the form of this exercise, I didn't worry about perfectionism, but just creating something new out of the ashes, a trash to treasure art collective piece, something that is upcycled from my own studio. In the end, they came out with very different looks. I felt a lot happier with the result on the second attempt, but yeah, what do you think? Moving on, this one is going to be a little bit more like the works that I did with my students because it's going to be a collage piece. I decided to take this sketchbook work and incorporate it into a random collage I made just so I had collage materials around in the future one time. I ripped off my edges to soften the way that my collage blending job would work using Elmer's glue. I painted it onto the surface, a layer below, a layer above the paper, and then I continued up my composition, forming in some of the cloud shape using excess pieces of paper from my original sketchbook page. After that, I did some acrylic painting, and I got a little visual inspiration thinking about the Studio Ghibli films, the animated work of Hayao Miyazaki and his films like Spirited Away and Howl's Moving Castle, an illustrative style that I really like that has a delicate line work and exaggerated features. So I wasn't looking at a reference photo for this, but I just used the way that my two materials came together to think about my composition and how I could incorporate them into a new idea. And this is our before and after. We had two different sketchbook pieces going in. Using pencil, I wanted to do a little bit more detailing to define my composition and to get a better idea of how I could make it look highly rendered, step away from just being a very blocky image that I'd left untouched for a few years. I did that same stylistic pull to the Hayao Miyazaki films with some really light and fine line work in selective areas, and then going in with my paint to define the rest of the details. Because I didn't have a reference image, I wanted to think about this from my mind, from images I could conjure. I just went to the Met recently in New York and was looking at some of the really dramatic landscapes there with water and cascading light shining down reflectively onto it. As I pulled different details forward, I would think, how can I intensify or exaggerate this to reference reality a little bit more? Can I throw in a shadow, a shine to make this pop and come to more life? So I added some waves coming across the landscape, some light dappling into the water, and some foreground flowers. This was a different way to take this piece. I kind of surprised myself when I was looking at the image for the last few years. It was so obviously a landscape to me, and looking at it again, I thought, you could really transform this into a wave. Why not just try it for the heck and fun of it? Again, I didn't work with a reference photo, so I was just pulling from my mind this imagined landscape. I wanted to get a lot of motion in the image, so I wasn't working too fine or tight at first. Basically, I wanted to redefine the landforms into the shapes of waves, and to loosen up and exaggerate that sky, take it away from a more graphic style of blocked in paint that it had, and make it a bit more movement oriented, have it a stormy going into nighttime feeling. And afterwards, when I had my composition established, then I would go in and work up the contrast and little details of white for the sea spray. On this one, I immediately cut it in half, took away some of the preciousness, and thought about another way I could divide up the composition. I thought it seemed too busy before, and I thought you were losing some of the cool details of the abstract work, so I gave it new borders, cut it into two compositions, and called it a day. I really like the way they came out, so these are probably honestly my favorites of the group. But what do you think about them? If you're interested in any of these, they're available on robinsealark.com for purchase. I hope y'all enjoyed this video and this opportunity to revisit some work that you thought might be destined for the trash can. It's a new day for your art capades, your escapades into art. Find me on social media, check out the works on robinsealark.com, and I will see you in another video. Bye.